I think it's fascinating seeing this happen. I mean, to me, it's like a Greek tragedy. You know, Michael Cohen gets picked by Donald Trump to work for him when he's a young lawyer in his 30s, gets a good job, a good salary. He's idolized Trump from his perch growing up in Long Island. You know, of course, Trump was known by us all back in the New York early days. And his job is not exactly as lawyer and counselor. It's more as fixer, where Trump wants him to do certain things and he does them. And like he testified, one of the things he did for Trump was to negotiate down certain fees Trump owed or contracts Trump was obligated to pay on. And it occurred to me when I was listening to this, you know, the relationship was fraught from the beginning, right? Like, I think there's a reason Trump hired someone as sketchy as Michael Cohen. He was reportedly always desiring to have someone like Roy Cohen, you know, the famed lawyer who he was famous for his strong arm tactics and getting things done. And this was supposed to be his Roy Cohen. And Cohen spent a lifetime trying to just get Trump what he wanted. As he put it, my job was to make him happy. And I don't know what sort of corners were bent or what happened, but New York real estate is infamous for corners being bent. And, you know, for operators doing what they need to do in order to get these buildings built and deals done. That's just the way it is, not just Trump, by the way. I know a lot of these guys. So, of course, Trump had this lapdog working for him. And the theory being posited by the defense is once Cohen realized he was not going anywhere near the White House, things started to go sour when he realized that he was just going to be on the outside as a surrogate. And he was not going to be, holding my heart here, Attorney General. My God, my God. Can you imagine? Okay, so Trump was like, yeah, no, hard no. No, you're not going to be Attorney General. But the prosecution side, Viva, that's not what turned things south. What turned things south is the jig was up. They'd been working together with AMI to cover up these women's stories who were coming forward. Karen McDougal, the Playmate of the Year in '98. Stormy Daniels, with whom Trump allegedly had this one-night stand. And Cohen was working with AMI, or in the case of Stormy, on his own, paying off these women to keep them quiet. And when the shit hit the fan, Trump cut ties, let him twist in the wind, and he went down for it. And now it's Trump's turn. So that's kind of how it shook out this morning. And the Greek tragedy winds up, you know, as in others, with the wannabe aspiring son sticking the knife in his dad, turning on him. He says Trump turned first, but in any event, he's up there testifying so far this morning about how he loved Trump. He was happy. He really loved his job. If only the dad had seen how wonderful he was, Viva, perhaps we wouldn't be here today.
He might have been a better attorney general than Merrick Garland, in fairness, but the competition's not very high there.
Yeah, good point.
It's so wild. We're listening to this in real time right now, and it's as though, look, there are Better Call Saul type attorneys, and then there are Alan Dershowitz type attorneys, and quite clearly, I mean, I like Better Call Saul, and he seems like a nice guy, but quite clearly, Michael Cohen was of that pedigree of an attorney, and I'm now convinced, by the way, listening to all of this, that Michael Cohen and David Pecker were in on this quasi-extortion scheme against Donald Trump. When you have Michael Cohen basically the fixer, and I forget who said it last week. Yeah, he was the fixer because he broke everything.
Hicks.
He's a negotiator. Hope Hicks. He's fixing, negotiating these deals on stories that they know are false, making work for himself so he can bill for this, even though they know the stories are bunk. It's like everybody was having a dip at Donald Trump's pockets. But the bottom line is, even if all of this is true, there's no underlying crime to any of this. But the more bottom line is that Michael Cohen is a corrupt extortionist of his own, in my humble opinion. I'm not talking like in law, but it certainly seems that they were all just making work for themselves so they could dip into Trump's pockets and all take a piece of the pie as Trump is paying it out because it's not worth his time to deal with any of this.
So you don't believe that Trump had a one-night stand with Stormy Daniels or had an affair with Karen McDougal?
McDougal, I don't know. Stormy Daniels, no. From what I know, I'm not intimately involved with anybody in the campaign. For someone who is a self-proclaimed neurotic hypochondriac myself, you're not having unprotected sex with a porn star who is in the industry of having unprotected sex because she's allergic to latex condoms, when you have options that are better if that's your proclivity in life. So I don't believe it for a second. And I believe that Stormy Daniels is an extortionist who was trying to get money out of Trump, as Michael Avenatti has now seriously implied from his jail cell in New York.
You know what's crazy, Phil, is I came into this trial completely believing that Trump had a one-night stand with Stormy and an affair with Karen McDougal. And I still believe he had an affair with Karen McDougal. That one got a little bit more detailed from testimony, I think it was today with Cohen, where it went on allegedly for a long time, for months, if not years. And Cohen confronted Trump with the fact that she was shopping the story around. And his first response, according to Cohen, was, "She's so beautiful." So they definitely knew each other. There are pictures of them together. And I still believe it. They didn't call her and they're not calling her. But I no longer believe the Stormy Daniels story. I at least have very serious doubts about it. I would not find beyond a reasonable doubt, not that they have to, but I would not find beyond a reasonable doubt that they had an affair. She came across as so not credible, as we discussed on that Friday night show. I don't put any stock in what this woman's, her new Me Too remembrances. I now believe it could have been a setup. She met him at the Tahoe thing. Maybe she went to his apartment or his hotel room. Maybe she didn't. But I can't believe a word out of that woman's mouth.
Well, considering the source being Stormy Daniels, and of course now if Michael Cohen says it's true, then I am irredeemably confined to believe the alternative, that it did not happen. If Michael Cohen says the sky is blue, I'm going to doubt the validity and the truthfulness of that statement. You know, Michael Cohen, back to him, you know, we talk about him being a fixer. Well, it sounds to me like he likes that moniker way too much. It seems to me that he's embracing that. I guess it goes to his ego and pumps up his ego just a little too much. You know, when you talk about renegotiating contracts and you talk about working down the number on the dollar amount that you owe people on bills and things like that, that's actually practicing law. That's not necessarily being a fixer. But in Michael Cohen's mind, he gets more mileage on TikTok out of being labeled the fixer for Donald Trump. So when you talk about whether the affair ever happened or any of this other stuff, by the way, look first to the bias of the people making the claim. Does Stormy Daniels have a bias against Donald Trump? Most assuredly so. Does Michael Cohen have a bias? Most assuredly so. And the fact that they are leading this testimony or perjury, whatever it is, with evidence that makes the case for him being biased against Donald Trump, I think only goes to help Donald Trump, because first and foremost, before you get into all of the prior inconsistent statements and the convictions for things related to fraud and lying, if a defendant who sits in the witness chair has a built-in bias against the defendant, you can disregard all of their other testimony. And the same goes for Stormy Daniels and whether or not they ever had an affair.
So far, Michael Cohen is trying to sketch a relationship in which he's tight with Trump, Viva, that it was an open door policy. He could go in there whenever he wanted, didn't need an appointment, and that they were so close that Trump shared his contact list, like in his, I don't know if it's his phone. I don't think Trump seems to be eschew. Yeah, the Rolodex phone use, but his Rolodex. And I actually just heard people on CNN saying, oh my God, who would do that? Who would share every single contact they have with, you know, their right-hand person? Meanwhile, I'm like, Abigail Finan literally knew when it was time for me to get more birth control. Back when I was taking it, my assistant. Let me tell you, there are plenty of us who share everything with our right-hand person. But the whole point is to show they're tight. They're tight. And later it will be argued Michael Cohen would never have done anything without running it by Trump.
I have to get this thought out of my head before, because this goes back to the question as to whether or not you believe Trump did this with Stormy Daniels. For anybody who didn't watch her testimony, she said she was allergic to latex. So in all of her hundreds of movies of career, she never used a condom. And we're to believe that Donald Trump, who by all accounts is a germaphobe, would do this. It's like that old commercial, when you have unprotected sex with somebody, you're not just having sex with them, but everyone who they've ever had sex with. So all that say, I had to say that before I forgot it. Do I believe Michael Cohen's testimony is all over the place? I put out a meme because it's hilarious, where his answer was yes, I mean no. That was one of the last tweets. from Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee, that I had the privilege of reading before we went live. The guy's, he'll say anything. What's clear is that he's got overt malice and animus towards Trump, as does Stormy Daniels, and she's got a personal vendetta, or at least financial interests, in seeing Trump go down because she owes him $500,000 and doesn't want to pay any of that. They have clear animus if they don't have potentially other mental issues. I mean, Stormy touched on it as to whether or not, she might be suffering from some mental issues. Michael Cohen, if he doesn't touch on it, it might appear to be apparent from his behavior. But what we've seen, in the broader scheme, we've seen a politically weaponized machine that has no qualms about using the mentally unwell as tools for political profit. The way they exploited E. Jean Carroll to go after Trump under that law that they recently amended to allow her to do it. I'd say to some extent the way the machine exploited Fetterman in his time of illness just because they needed him on the seat. And then when he started saying things critical of the party, they start potentially throwing him under the bus. We see an exploitation of Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels to their detriment to pursue Trump. And my concern is it doesn't matter what evidence is presented or is not presented. We are in New York. Trump is getting convicted the same way he was found liable for that nonsense E. Jean Carroll suit. So the bottom line, I don't think it matters what evidence is on display or what evidence is contradicted. I think Trump is getting convicted regardless. It'll be for the appeals court to right this wrong.
I feel the same. Totally I feel like it's kind of a moot point. Do you owe back taxes? Stressful? Pandemic relief is now officially over. Along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers, the IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have an unfiled tax return or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe 10 grand or 10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay, or if you don't and you're on a fixed income, they can help you finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.